Hello, podcast lovers. Thank you so much for coming back in. Um, this is really exciting today because, as I promised, there will be also success stories that we will be sharing with people that have agreed to be a part of this whole collective, fun, open verbal space. And today it's super cool because today we will talk, like I will talk to Greg and Greg to me. So first of all, thank you so much for being here on my
Sure.
podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you agreed to do this.
Thank
And
you.
because when we have conversations with each other, I always find that you are so inspiring, right? Like everything when we have conversations about business or certain aspects, every time when I feel like I have a conversation with you, there's always something that I either learn or I haven't heard before. And I'm like, this is so cool. So I'm so excited to really dive in your own personal success story. I mean, I know that you briefly shared certain things with me, but I'm so very excited, and I'm also so excited for the things that I already know that you do, but just for the city of Long Beach to have such role model, such impact for young kids. I feel like
Thank
you play a big role in so many kids' lives, maybe consciously or unconsciously. And that's really cool because we need leaders. We in this world today, we absolutely need people that kind of like step up to the plate where people don't see the plate, or people don't even, are not aware that there even is a plate.
Right.
So for that, I have absolutely the utmost respect for you for
Thank you.
taking charge and just being and helping person. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. And so, let's I'm so curious because I want to know for myself, where do you find when everything started in your life, right? Like when you look back right now and you look at your outcome today, but where would you say, kind of like, give me like a whole kind of like overall summary of where it all started, and maybe if you like to share the most challenges that were in between, and where now, where we come today, where it's like, okay, I had to go through all of that and I had to master so many obstacles,
Right.
but today you are where you are. So I'm so ready, like, just,
All
I mean, I don't even
right.
know, you know
Well, we'll start at kind of like the beginning of my journey. First of all, thanks for having me, and I'm
You're
very
welcome.
flattered that and honored that you are offering me an opportunity to be on your platform, which I'm very proud of you. Because I think I had something to do with you getting started, like giving you some motivational to push forward, and I'm proud
Yeah,
of you because you did it. And look at you now, Miss
thank you.
Podcaster. Um, but anyway, my name is Coach Greg. I grew up South Los Angeles. I'm a prodigy of. I'm a preacher's kid. My dad is a minister, or was a minister in South Los Angeles. We grew up in the pretty rough neighborhood where it was survival tactics to get to school and to get back home alone. Um, I grew up in the gang infested area, and where the gangs are really becoming who they are today. I grew up when they had just started in the hood, what we call the hood, which is basically South Los Angeles, South Los Angeles. And I grew up in an area where it was pretty infested with gang retaliation and gang recruitment. So, being a young black man in that part of the area, I was highly recruited constantly by the Crips or the Bloods, depending on what area we lived in, to be a part of their gang. But I would always reflect and go back to, hey, I can't be in a gang because my dad's a preacher and he wouldn't allow it. So I kind of got the pass in the hood because my dad was a minister, and my dad was actually burying. He was in charge of being the person that the families would call the whole funerals in the hood. It's crazy because I'll be hanging out with some kids, and next thing you know, my dad is performing at their funeral at the church. So I got kind of a pass from the guys in the hood. Every time they would try to recruit me, I would say I couldn't because I'm the pastor's son, and I just wasn't allowed to be affiliated. But you're automatically affiliated where you grow up at. So it's a certain area that you grow up. If you on these two particular streets are in a block, you're automatically associated with that gang. Whoever's running that block, you're automatically in. You ain't got to be voted in. You're automatically in. So anyway, I grew up in the hood. I survived. I went to one of the hardest schools in South Los Angeles called Washington High School. It's where the Crips and the Bloods actually started. So I kind of like survived coming out of South Central Los Angeles and also coming out of the church environment where I realized there was much more for me out there than just the 4 blocks that I was a part of or that I was able to walk up and down without getting shot. But I always realized that if I go 6 miles east or west, there was a different lifestyle over there. You know, I just happened to be in a car one day and we went out towards the beach in Los Angeles, and I was like, "Whoa, there's another lifestyle out here," and you know, nice cars. It just looked different. I was like, "There's more out there." So I was always had the mindset I need to get outside of my block, outside of my area, because I know there's something else out there. I just got to go get it. And
Mhm.
that's my my motto, you know, don't stop, just go. Keep going, go forward. Go get it. There's something more out there. It's not going to come to you. You got to go get it. So anyway, so I grew up in the church. My dad's a preacher. I grew up as a musician in the church. You know, in the church, it's like a business, a self-employed business, and the kids in the family usually run in the church. So I was one of the musicians in the church. I played the drums and the keyboards and the piano and all that stuff. So anyway, grew up in the church, grew up doing gospel music. I was highly recruited by some gospel acts that would take me on the road as their drummer. So that's how I was able to get out of the hood and see the world when I was recruited at a young age to start playing drums for professional gospel recording artists. And that's when I also got a taste of I want to do something different from just being caught up in the hood. I definitely wanted to do something different, which was music and sports. And so that's just a little
Um,
basic.
I'm so I'm so interested already at this part because I want to know, when I feel like when I hear this, I absolutely feel like that you were so protected from above already to begin with. Not only the fact that your dad was a preacher, but also the fact that even if he was a preacher, kids at the high school had no idea. I mean, there's so many other kids that didn't even know who you are.
Right.
And not only were you protected from that aspect that your dad chose to go into this direction and gave you kind of like a green pass within the neighborhood, but
Yeah.
also being protected in general, being in high school like that. But my question is, was there ever a time when you were like really scared, like really literally like it
Mm.
wasn't a daily thing where you walk from school or you
Yeah.
went to school and like inside of you, you're like, oh my God, like please just not today or
Yeah.
hopefully like
There's a scripture that my parents instilled in me because they knew we were in a very bad neighborhood. Was called, they said in a part in the Bible, put on the whole armor of God that he will protect you from the wiles of the devil or the wiles of the devil. So basically, I took that literally like, okay, when I get ready to go and walk to school, I got to put on my shield and just go for it and always have my shield on that I'll be protected. So
wow.
that was something in the part of the Bible. You know, I'm very spiritual. I'm not really religious, but I always understand that some of that teaching stuff really applies to your everyday life, and it helped me to kind of like be strong. Like I was always like the littlest guy in my school because I grew up. I was a September baby, so I was always the youngest guy in my class. But I always had this Bible scripture of this guy named David who fought Goliath, and David was a little guy, and Goliath was the giant, and David
Uh-huh.
not scared. David, but he beat Goliath in a big fight. He just had a slingshot and a rock, and he swung and he hit Goliath, and Goliath died, and David won. So anyway, part of that Bible stuff really helped me get through hard times. You know, having faith, having somebody
Mhm.
to lean on when nobody's there, having faith in myself and believing that a God is in me or I am a God. You know, I have my God in me and I pray
Right.
to him for help when I need it. But there was a time when I got scared a lot. walking to school and back, you always approached by the gang members like, yo, homie, what set you from? And if you say the wrong thing, it could be the end of the world for you. So, you know, there were always those times where you get approached because there, like I said, I was highly recruited, you know,
Yeah.
young black man, had the football statue, you know, they just was after me. The guys who didn't know my dad was a preacher, you know, I was just highly getting recruited. But you had to be careful what you say. Because if you tell, you know, what set you from, you just tell me you're not from a set. Or if you say the wrong set, you usually get in trouble or get, you know, get in a fight.
Right.
But there was a time when you know, I used to walk to school every day. I had to because we didn't really have transportation. But part of being in the gang was like just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And because they were doing a lot of drive-bys back then, drive-by shooting. And I got caught up in one. I was in the wrong place, the wrong time. And I took off and I heard them coming. You know, they hit the corner. I saw the lights
Yeah.
go off. Me and my homie was like, yo, we got to run. And we just
Yeah.
took off running and, you know, I got shot. But I shouldn't have been in that area. So, you know, but I got shot. I survived. But that was the time where I just really like pray, like, God, don't let me die. Not now, you know? So,
Yeah.
you know, there has been times when I was like, okay, I need to lean on somebody else higher than me to help me get through what I got through. And I
Yeah.
survived, but yeah, there's been some times that being in the hood was scary. Every
Yeah.
day, you just never knew, you know?
Yeah.
That's the
Wow.
story on that.
Wow. And I mean, it's so cool anyway now to know the backstory of it and knowing now where you are today is just so it's just so amazing how he really works, right? Like how
Yes.
everything moves. And I'm pretty sure on your way to getting to your success story, there was so many things that you failed on, that
Oh,
you
yeah.
probably felt
Lots.
like broken and like I don't know, was there ever a time when everything in a sense until you got to this point was completely taken away and you ended up with nothing? Where you were
Yeah,
like, I
there.
don't even know where to start, or like where things where you felt like, okay, I got to rethink my idea of wanting to be who I am or the creation I want to create
Yeah,
for myself to make
definitely.
money, or like how?
Yeah, because that's been interesting you said because every failure I had to take it as a lesson, or every
Mhm.
loss I take it as a lesson. I've started so many different businesses and different pathways, and you know, some things just didn't work out. But you don't take it. You're learning. You're learning when you fail. You're learning when you lose a game. So you have to take every setback as a learning experience and say, okay, I learned a lot from that failure or from that fall. Um, I know if I do it again, I'm going to go about it differently, right? Because you can't just give up. You know, how many, I'm just, one day I was thinking about how many businesses and ways that I went to get to where I am now, but I take a lot of those tribulations that I went through to apply to where I am now, and it helps guides me to keep going in the way I want to go, which is straight and for success. Um, Give you a prime example. I've been a musician forever. I played drums. I grew up in South Central. I was on tour with people. Actually, I was one of I don't know if your audience might be a little bit too young, but there's an artist, a group by the name of NWA, which is a hip
Hmm.
hop group that started hip hop in Los Angeles. So I was a part of that era because I was a musician in the hood, and the guys that were putting the band together with Eric and them or Easy, they were looking for a band to play gigs. And me being a church musician, I was recruited to be the drummer. So me and L.A. Dre and some other musicians, we got together. So we were like the drummers or the musician, the band playing for Eric and Easy and them. And then I became Easy's studio drummer. But I've always wanted to be in music, music, music. Then I got into sports. So, and then I'm a coach and I'm running a successful basketball company. So I say that to say this, you never know where it's coming from. Sometimes you just got to be open-minded and sometimes you have to pivot. You have to take a turn to go this way and don't
But
be
I guess,
stuck on just one way. Because sometimes
yeah.
you keep banging your head trying to go that way. It's like, you know what? Maybe it's not meant to be. Okay, I'll go
And
over here now.
and you know, and so that's exactly where I wanted to touch base on is like, I guess my question is, when do you know, or when did you know for yourself that that you thought was really for you wasn't for you, and you stopped banging your head against the
Right.
wall? Because I, in my life, I can tell you, sometimes I'm like, I know in my heart this can work. I know this is supposed to work because I have this idea. I nurtured this idea. I nurtured this business plan. I put it down to the T. Like it just has to work.
Yeah.
But when do you, or for yourself, when do you think people should take a step back and be like, look, I tried everything. Obviously, it's not working. Like, what was it for you? The light bulb, or was
Yeah.
it that a different opportunity just came up and it sounded better and you just let go, or were you super conscious of it, or what?
It's funny.
Was
Yeah,
it?
that's weird because I was in one direction and then another opportunity approached itself. And I was like, you know what? This sounds good over here. Let me go over here and try it out. Sometimes
Right,
it's all about chances when they come your way. Sometimes you have to take them. You have to take a chance. Sometimes you have to go left when you think, oh, I'm gotta go right and go right. If you don't see anything happening time after time, that means you have to make a change. You have to pivot. You have to go. You got to make a change in direction. You got to be wise enough to say this is not working, especially if you're trying to make a success or make money. Because it takes money to make money. You got to spend money to make money. So if you ain't making no money, it's gonna be hard to spend the money it takes to make more money. You
right.
follow? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It totally
Yeah.
makes sense. It's just sometimes also, I think, very difficult for one to accept
Right.
and realize that the dream that you are nurturing inside of you, like for instance, for you was musician, being a musician, to just give that up. Because what do you do with all those
Right.
feelings? What do you do with all those memories that you created, the written songs or the written lyrics or
Right.
the written notes? Or, I mean, in your case, obviously it's very specific, but I'm saying if somebody really wants to become something and they put all this time and effort in, I'm just wondering, what do you do with that? And then also, do you feel like a failure because that
Mm.
part didn't work out of you?
Well,
Like,
no, you don't feel like a failure because as long as you're doing it to the best of your ability, that's all you can do. If
mm,
you know what I mean? If you don't
mhm,
half-ass it and you go
right,
100%, I went 120% on the music side. I was doing music lessons, playing for free, doing these little gigs, playing in the church all the
right,
time. So I went 110 and I got to a certain level. I think it's just a realization. You have to kind of like say, is this working? You really got to be honest with yourself. Is this
right,
working? Is this where you want to be? When I hit a certain age in the music industry, I was like, I'm not there. This is okay. I did good. It was a good run. I need to go a different direction. I guess you got
mhm,
to really have that mindset
mhm,
of this is not working. Or
yeah,
I need to think about another direction and
yeah.
suck it up and be proud and go.
Yeah. But
It's the
that,
thing
but
what
that's the thing. But I feel like that's exactly the thing. Suck it up and be proud, because I feel like sometimes what we naturally do as humans, we're so excited about something, and then
right,
we go and tell this one and that one, and we're putting it on the big bell out there, kind of like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I mean, I feel like those kind of
you
movements come
know
with
that
maturity and age.
yeah.
And but then
You
if you
have
were
to be right. My answer to that before I forget is it's okay to put it out there. Because
right,
you have to let it know, understand it's okay to fail. It's
right,
okay to fail.
right.
It's
So
like
so
everybody knew I was trying to
basically,
be a musician. I was trying to be a musician. I would
right.
write it in my yearbooks. I'll see you on TV, all that. I got to a certain level, but the thing is, at least you try. It's okay to fail. Everybody's
Mhm,
got to fail, and just
mhm.
suck it up. Okay, and it's not a failure. You tried something and it just didn't work the way that you thought it was going to work. You
Right,
know?
right. And I think like that's really fundamentally, it's really like just really understanding that you are standing in your own truth by
Right,
already being so courageous by starting something other than choosing for yourself to have a job, which I'm not judging that. I'm not hating on that either, because it does come with a lot of privileges, like
right,
security and like all of those other things. 'Cause I found like as an entrepreneur, you are really on your own. You know what I
right.
mean? Like there,
Yeah,
especially if your business is already successful, there is really not nobody to be like, okay, I'm sick today, or my child is sick, or whatever. I just can't come in, and you just call and you
right,
give a doctor's note, and that's kind of like it. Because when you have your own business, there's so many other aspects to consider that I find sometimes we don't really take in, because it's easy to say, oh, I want to be my own boss. I want to make my own schedule. I don't want to dance after anybody's rules. But then the thing that comes with it, and I can speak from my own experience, when I created my own business, I thought, I'm just gonna create a business card and a cute website and I'm good to go.
Right, right,
Like completely
right,
naive.
right, right,
but
right.
but I feel like that part, you just really standing in your truth and owning, in a sense, the failure, which again isn't really a failure, but like still owning the part that it didn't work, because that's hurtful. Like
Yeah,
that's a moment inside of you, like, well, dang, like it didn't work out, like all those bubbles that you created
right,
just burst all of a sudden.
right. It's funny because when I was failing, I just remembered, hey, it's only temporarily. Because if you
Mhm.
quit, then you fail. You fail. I didn't
Right.
quit. It just didn't work out. So I just continue to keep going and go in a different direction. When you quit, that's a failure. But if you just learn from what didn't work that way and apply it somewhere else, but keep going, you're going to get there eventually. Like,
Yeah.
for instance, during the whole situation with me starting my company, the jump start was when COVID hit. I had a good job as an athletics director at a school running the sports department, so I said, okay, I'm gonna buy in. I felt it was great. Then COVID hit, and I was like, oh, then they shut the schools down and all that. I could have just quit, but then I said, you know what? Let me start my own business now. And I jumped in, and that was the best move I could have ever made. Sometimes you just don't know the direction. You know what I mean? You just got to go for it
Yeah.
and fall and buy in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I bought
I
in
mean,
as a musician. I bought in as a coach, and I bought in, and it was the best move I could have ever made because
mm,
now I'm in an industry where I'm doing fine. I'm just actually very ecstatic. Like, wow, this
right.
thing is really really good. It's working.
Yeah. I feel like also this is just really signifying, like, so clearly that when you do have faith, like when you do choose to believe in something higher than your own self, and you hold on to something and you just never lose that part of,
Right,
no matter what happens, fundamentally, I know I'll be okay because he got
right,
me.
right,
I feel like it all falls back into that too, to me. And I'm so happy that I have that choice and I made that choice for me. And I know that you made that choice for you too. And
hmm,
and I strongly believe that with that, part of just being faithful about your next move. And like you said, you need to pivot and you need to just really go with a yes. So kind of like almost any opportunity that is
right,
being presented to you, even if it's in your mind, like, how will I ever make money with that? Like,
right,
what?
right,
How can this even work? Like, I don't even see that for myself, but I feel like because we don't see so far, we only have senses and we can see so far and we can taste so, and like our human senses, it's sometimes really important to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna jump. Like,
right,
it's scary as it might be, it's scary as it might be, to just be like, you know what, this is not okay anymore, or it just simply doesn't work for me, and I acknowledge and I receive that, but what now? And
right.
oh, this pool right here seems kind of weird, the water is kind of murky, it's kind of unclear, but you know what, like, let's jump.
Jump, swim, yeah, get in it. Because
Right.
how do you know it's not going to work if you don't
Right.
try?
Right.
That's why.
It's always that side, right? Like
Yeah,
50%. And I feel like that's all about mindset too, because you can be in a mindset of like 50% of your mind can be like, well, okay, if it can work because A, B, and C and D, and I've seen this with other people, and I've seen this with the neighbor, or I made my own experience and it didn't work then. And then the other part of your brain or your mindset could be, but what if it works this time? Like,
yeah,
what if you can really fly? Like, what
right,
if you can really fly, and what if you can really accomplish that? Because it's always two sides of every coin, right?
right,
And it's kind
right,
of like, I feel like, up to us to make a decision of either, if I'm telling myself, hey, you know what, this can work, you're right, it can't and it won't. Or if I tell myself, actually, this can work, you're
hmm,
right again, because
hmm,
it can, right? I
hmm,
feel like it's the first thing we tell ourselves is really what manifests within inside of our temple. And then if we then, like you, have
right,
courage
Right.
literally, because I feel like this is very courageous, right? To fail, to come from a place where
Right.
fear was normal, being scared was normal. So what an ironic thing for you to leave that was so a part of your entire life, fear based scarcity mindset, which you're placed in. It's not that you choose that for yourself, but you were literally placed in that, to then take that and convert it to, I'm gonna leave fear completely behind because I'm a
Right.
jump.
Right.
Like that to me is courageous. That to me is really being like, you know what, I'm not only courageous, but I'm also making a choice here. I'm also
Right.
deciding right now and
Right.
here, I'm gonna leave that part and or that mindset or this opinion or scenario, situation, whatever, behind, and I'm gonna do this now. Right,
Right.
because we do have the choice, right? Like
True.
we all really have the choice to literally, in a sense, try anything we like to or change our mind.
It's funny because a lot of the key elements of is never giving up. Just don't give up. You
Mm-hmm.
can always change paths, but don't give up on the fight, on the decisions, making the decision to go forward. Because when
Right.
you give up, that's when it's like you give in, you give up, like you're done. Then you have depression and uncertainty. All that stuff starts messing with your mind. But if you just keep going, I'll give you the prime example. Even when I got into this basketball business, I got in, I had another partner. The business was blowing up. I was the brain behind it, and he was the face. And I was out there. We were in 7 different cities, and it was like, oh, this is doing great. And then boom, it exploded. We had a falling out. He took off and took everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quit. I said, you know what? Forget it. I'll keep going. I'll do it on my own because I learned a lot of things working with him. And I was like, but that proves to me that I can do this. I don't need him. And then I started my own brand, and it was the best thing I could have did because, again, I learned something from doing business with him, right? I would have never known. I wouldn't have took that chance to learn all the stuff I learned with that guy
So
on how to build a
is it
brand. And then
so
I was like, I could do,
just a
huh?
quick thing. Is it fair then to say that because this person that actually stabbed you in the back, if it's fair to say that
Yeah.
way, actually though was a teacher in the end that came into your life to
Yep.
show you certain ropes that were
Yep.
never there
Yep.
to
Yeah.
then now, right? And so
Exactly.
this is my thing though too, and this is exactly what I love to always harp on so much, is
Right.
because we are so naturally wired to be bitter about something or someone that actually did something wrong to us, which,
Right.
don't get me wrong, we have the right. We have
Right.
the right to be
It's only
upset or
nature. It's
whatever.
only human nature.
Right. And
Right.
listen, if somebody does you wrong and it was really not cool at all, absolutely do you have the right to say, I don't want to have any contact with you anymore, or that was foul, or like, you're whatever, I'm good on you, I'm cool on you. But my
Right.
point to that is, even though he did that, he was fundamentally, I'm not
Yep.
saying the beginning, but in a
Right.
sense, he was part of the beginning of you being where you are. Because if he would have never done
Yep.
that to
Yep.
you,
Yeah.
you would have never even taken the leap on your own, because it is safety to have a partner. It is safety to be with somebody else on a podcast. I know
Right.
this from my own experience. This is much more easier for me instead of me talking to my own episodes.
Right.
Like this,
Right. Right.
this is easier, right?
Right.
But I'm saying that to say that this is really stuff that I want to point out. It's like that part, like to not forget that everything literally happens for a reason, and we
For
are
a
so
reason. Right.
and
Everything
so
happens for a
grateful,
reason. Right.
man, and actually so grateful for this person, whoever this person is, that he actually did that.
Yep.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for entering Coach Greg's life to
Exactly.
then leave him, stab him in
Yeah.
the back, in
Yeah.
order then to allow
Yeah.
him to actually
Yeah.
really
To blossom
create.
out. To go out and do
Man.
what I'm really supposed to do. Right.
And
And
in all honesty, if we now want to take it a step further and really talk about blessing somebody else and really, displaying characters of God, I think writing him a check, and no matter what amount, even if it's just for coffee, thank you. Coffee is on me. Thank
Right,
you so much.
right,
A bottle
right,
of champagne or a nice coffee for the whole week is on me because of you doing this to me. Look at me now.
right. Yeah, I would buy him some coffee if I ever come across him. And it's
Right.
funny because when I first did the deal with him, I wasn't even sure, but I just said, you know what? Let me try it out.
Good.
Let me try it out.
Right.
And again, chances are made to be taken. That's why you take them. If you don't take the chance, you never know.
Right.
Right? You never know if
Yeah.
you don't take the chance. Sometimes an
Right.
opportunity presents itself and you just
Yeah.
gotta, okay, let me go for it. And I
Mm-hmm.
went for it. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I thought it was the best thing in the world with him. But then when it started running to the shakiness and then we broke up and he left me with nothing. He got into the bank account, he took all the money out. I was left with only one city that believed in me and gave me a chance to rebrand and start it up. And it was no looking back, and it was like, all right, I got this. And,
Yeah.
I've heard stories of, like sometimes when it used to be back in the days when Vikings on their ship go to take over an island, when they get off the ship, they put a hole in the ship so they can let it sink. Cause ain't no going back. We gotta win, and that was my
Mm.
attitude. Like I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. There's gonna be some hiccups. I'm gonna fall. I'm gonna scrape my
Yeah.
knees, but I'm gonna win this one. And that's just the attitude that I've
Yeah.
taken.
Yeah. Yeah, and I completely agree with that too, because me, coming from another country here, I mean, trust me, there were so many obstacles but my
Yeah,
dream of really wanting to be here and knowing that this is really a purpose for me, why I picked this country, really made me like so resilient, like
hmm,
so resilient inside of myself to be like, you know what, no matter what this lawyer fee is, or this process is to even get to my new working visa,
yeah,
no matter what, like I'll find a way. And I feel like when we have that really inner true faith of like, no matter what, I got my God and my God got me,
yeah,
we develop something internally that is, I don't know how to describe it with simple words, but it's a strength that was planted or is planted within you that automatically, it's almost like you becoming a mom for the first time. If
right.
something were to happen to your child, like you automatically have that, no matter what, we go to war.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's really something that, you know, um, is not easy to maintain. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody gets the opportunity to come across that, but it's really challenging to maintain that because we are in a really challenging time, and with COVID, and then we have relationships that failing, we have trouble, we have elderly parents that we need to take care of, we have
Yeah,
jobs, we have money problems, we have so many issues. So it's very challenging to be like, and today is going to be a good day. Like,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
that part for sure. But hearing stories like this is always such and like I told you at the beginning, you're such an inspiration for me.
thanks.
Really, you inspired me in so many ways, not
Really?
only from conversations that we shared, you know, but just the fact, looking at the whole story as a whole picture,
Yeah,
is like this is
thanks.
nothing but faith.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
nothing else other than that.
right.
There's no other explanation other than that and being protected.
Yeah, it's that's thank you. And that's I definitely rely heavily on my faith,
Yeah.
Not that I just was born to have faith that I will survive. I will get to the next phase of life. But I have to still put in the work. Some people like this thing called manifesting, which I never knew anything about, right? Till I started reading and wanting more information than the stuff that I knew from church. I just said there's
Mhm.
more out there. So when I started learning about manifestation, I was like, let me try this out. And I started learning how to do it and how to put it out there. But there's still a part of the manifesting is that you still got to put in the work. You still got to
Mhm.
go out and try and get it so it'll
Sure.
come to you. You manifest all day, but if you don't put in the work, how's it gonna come to you? You still got to put in the work. I
Right.
tell people you still got to put in the work, you know. Give you another example. When I did decide to start my own business and stop the being an athletics director, I was like, I got to put in the work. Okay, all right. So I went and found a church. I had no gym to do basketball. COVID shut down all sports. So I was like, you know what? I'll find a building. I found the church and made a deal with them. Let me put my basketball court out behind your church in the parking lot. They were like, the parking lot? I was like, yeah, just give me the parking lot. Let me rent the parking lot and I'll make it work. Check this out. So they took the deal. And I was like, oh my God, right? So I just kept manifesting. The parking lot was terrible. It had trees in it. It had trees. It had the parking things that were cars there. It was just small. I like took that and said, you know what? I have a vision. So I made a vision. I got my homies together. We cleaned out the parking lot. We did cement work. We tore up the trees. We had asphalt that was cracking, and I had no basketball rims, but I had manifested and I put in the work. I'll give you another example. So when COVID hit, I was right in the middle of trying to build this gym outdoors. Then the bank shut down. All the money had frozen up, and I was like, oh, I only got like 10 grand to make this happen. A court alone would cost $10,000 to put outdoors. So I'm like, so I'm on offer up, looking for somebody to sell a court to me for like 3,000 or whatever. Couldn't find nothing that cheap. All I had was $10,000 left to make this dream happen. I saw a guy had a court in Newport Beach. I hit him up. He said 7 grand. I was like, I said, I'll get back to you. So 2 days I just sat there like, if I give him 7, that's gonna leave me with 3. How in the hell am I gonna do this, right? And so I texted him 3 days later. I'm sorry, unfortunately, that's gonna eat up my budget. I can't do it. Then I hit send. I sat there and wait. He sent me a message back. Hey, if you want it, just come pick it up. You ain't gotta pay me. Right? A $10,000 court
That's
trip.
God.
That's right. So
That's
that's what I'm
God.
saying. It's like if I wouldn't have did what I did, I wouldn't have got that. He gave me a court for free. So I
Good.
had to do it.
Yeah, you had to.
There was like it's like Greg, you started this thing, keep going. Sometimes you just gotta keep going. This
Yeah.
guy lives in Newport Beach. I called my homie up, yo man, we gotta go get this basketball court. It's outdoors at somebody's house. Let's go get it. We got a U-Haul, picked up some other brothers on the corner. We drove out to Newport Beach, turned the corner, house sitting on the hill right on the water. Could not believe it. It was like a dream. I was
Yeah.
like, yo, is this the right neighborhood? Yeah, it's right. This is the address. We
Yeah.
ring the bell. Come on in. We drive up the hill. That beautiful mansion sitting right there. We ring the doorbell. Hey, coach, you want the court? It's over there. We had to drive around the corner to his tennis court. And he said, if you want to take it, just give me a letter of donation and it's your court. And me and my homies found a way. I found a way. We 3 guys took down a whole basketball court, stacked it in the truck. The truck was leaning. We drove all the way back to Long Beach, dropped it off. So I say that you just never know. You just gotta go for it.
Yeah.
People are like, where'd you get this court from?
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell them that, but it's just I took a chance. I took a chance.
Right.
And sometimes you gotta take that chance to get that opportunity for it to happen. If I would have never got that church to give me the parking lot, and if I would have never started searching for a basketball court, I would have never got that opportunity. Next thing you know, that was the best investment I could have done because that court paid for itself because I was the only guy during COVID that had a basketball facility for kids. These people were dropping off their kids left and right because they saw how important sports was for their mental components. They just wanted to keep their mental going. So I was the only guy doing basketball. And it was the best thing I could have did by just taking a chance and investing my little money into my brand. And the next thing you know, it just blew up.
And not only into your brand and into yourself, but also fundamentally into your community that you live in too. That you get coffee every day, that you have lunch every day, or that you pick up, you go to the post office or whatever. I mean, and this is really And I want to say two things to that. Number one, it's like synchronicities, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely synchronized from above that all of those things happen at the time when they're supposed to happen, because
Right.
this is exactly going back at the beginning. Everything happens exactly at divine timing, to the right time, to the right moment, with the
Wow.
right
Right.
people. All of that is absolutely being orchestrated from upstairs, you know,
Yeah.
to your highest and best. And then also, you know, community wise, I feel like when we understand that this lifetime is not just about ourselves. I mean, obviously we all have our own story that we share, and we all have our own obstacles that we should share just to help somebody else.
Right.
But if this isn't just about you and I, this isn't just about anybody in our street, in our neighborhood, in our city. This is a collective thing. We all live on the same place called Earth. And if
Mm-hmm.
we all just really contribute something small, and it could be nothing big like you. I mean, you took it to the extreme, and you got the privilege to really get the help from
Mm-hmm.
other people, from your community members, from people that believed in you, right? I mean, that's a whole lot. People
Yeah.
that actually like bought in a sense into you and your dream, right?
Right.
But let's
Right.
face it, not everybody has that opportunity, but everybody does have the opportunity to contribute something that will benefit the next person that walks behind you, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
right, and for me, it's really so I'm so happy to see that, because again, we need leaders like that. This is
Right.
really what this lifetime is about. We need to take care of each other. We,
That's
no
true.
matter who you are, where you from, what you did, I don't care. At the end, you eat food the same way I do. You breathe
Absolutely.
air the
Right.
same way I do. You
Right.
need water when you're thirsty, and you need medical assistance the very same way I do if something
Yep.
were to go down.
We
So
all bleed
although,
the same color. We
man,
bleed
the
the
same
same
color,
color.
the
Red
same color,
coming out.
the same color.
Yep.
Why is that? Is
It's just
because we actually all are one unit, and we
yep.
choose to either go with each other or against each other. Because,
Right.
and this is another episode, but you
Right.
know, ego and you know, growing up and stubbornness and all those fun things obviously play a huge role. But in
Right.
general, I feel like the choice is yours, right?
Yeah.
The choice is yours. You can choose either this way or you can choose that way.
Right, right. Luckily, we have the choice, and that's the thing. We don't want anybody to take our choices away. That's why
No,
when you get an opportunity, it's a choice. Okay, I'll take this chance. It's a chance, a choice, an opportunity. I'll go for it. Because you gotta. Luckily, we in a country that allow us to have choices. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
me being a
Absolutely.
black
And
man
that's a
growing up
privilege.
in this time or early when I did grow, it was always I was always the negative. Walking into interviews, I always had a strike against me. You know what I'm saying? But I never let that hinder me because I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I already know I got one strike against me because I'm black. So, granted, already I know it. That means I got to work harder and be smarter to get to the next level because I always had a strike against me because of the racism that
Yeah.
that this world has. But I'm
Right.
always like, you know what? Don't let that hinder me. Keep going.
Mm.
Keep going. Because you never know. There might be I give you I'm sorry, I'm taking all your time, but here's another thing that I got to teach my kids, like, don't give up, right? So instance, go back to the basketball thing. So I was outdoors in the heat, in the sun. I was darker than this, playing basketball, right? I had no
Uh-huh.
choice. This is all I had, right? So I put up with that for 2 years outdoors, no air conditioning. I put lights up, solar lights. It was still working. Somebody was watching me. There was a company. There was the Alfred Jewish Community Center, which is right around the corner from where I started. They heard about me doing basketball outdoors. They had customers come to me to teach their kids, and they would go back and say, "There's this gentleman teaching basketball outdoors. He's really good, right?" So they knew about me. But I've been trying to get into the Jewish Community Center for like 8 years to do basketball. Never can get in, right? So I took a chance one day, leaving my facility with my daughter, my outdoor court. I said, Amari, let's go over here. I'm gonna drive in here and see. Let me just see if I can find out what's going on with their gym. So Amari was with me. I said, Amari, wait in the car. I walked in the gym and the CFO was just walking out. And I said, hey, are you guys
What
doing
timing?
basketball here?
Mm-hmm.
Would you guys be? Oh, you know what? He said to me, we were just talking about basketball. We don't have basketball here right now, but we're considering. Who are you? And I said, I just happen to have my B-baller stuff on. Coach Greg, B-ballers, here's my card. I had one last card. Gave him my card. He was like, oh, okay. Yeah, we heard about you. All right, well, you know what? We'll take a meeting. We'll get back at you. Right? I'd say that to say this: you never know,
You
right?
never
All it
know.
can take is one yes. 6 months later, they're calling me in for a meeting, asking me, "Would you like to have this beautiful facility to bring sports here?" I was
Right.
like, "Yes." They gave me a chance. Next thing you know, blew it out, right? And that was all because of Kevin. The guy at JCC took a chance and believed in me and gave me an opportunity, and I just said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And it's the next thing you know, it's the best thing that could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
I went from one to the other, but I
Mm-hmm.
just kept going.
Right.
Manifested, right? But I had to go into that building, being at
Right.
the right place at the right time. If I wouldn't have,
Right.
what I mean? They've been telling me no for so long because they already had another basketball program. But all it takes is that one yes. That's why you
Yeah.
keep knocking.
Yeah.
Keep
But
knocking.
it's also just being really tenacious, like I
Yeah,
feel like that's the characteristic that you certainly can develop more with inside of you. But I feel like that's really tenacity of being like, you know what? Yeah, good. Thank you for your no, but I'm gonna come
right,
back. You see me
right,
next week again.
right,
Kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, in general, I feel like in general, just to wrap this all up, but I feel like in general, it takes it takes something bigger than yourself to believe in. It takes yourself, your own tenacity, your own drive, but it also takes just somebody else out there to just be like, you know what? That's okay. I'll see the light that you are, and I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna
right,
help you be
right.
so bright, because fundamentally, and this goes back to, we all hear the same way. If we just do this, I see your light and I'm gonna help you to be brighter, even if it's just with one sentence. I tell you, a verbal acknowledgement, a
Mm-hmm.
word of affirmation, a hug, a coffee, whatever. If you
Mm-hmm.
can help, help, because no matter what, it will come back to you because he
Yep.
sees it all. And karma is for real. Like
Yeah.
you do good things
It
will
comes back.
automatically come back.
Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
not right now, maybe not in the same month, maybe not even in the same year. For you,
Right.
it took 6 months for that to come back. You
Right.
walked in there with the card, and 6 months later, they only gave you a meeting,
They
right?
get
So
right.
it
It took
doesn't go
time.
instantly. Right.
Right.
But that in between of like understanding that I am the driver of my own success and I can if I want to. And if it's hopefully in an alignment with upstairs, it will
Right.
happen no matter what. Or
Right.
something else will happen,
Right.
something better that I'd never even considered. But
That's
on
true.
that note, I do want to say again, thank you so
Thank
very
you,
much for
Zana.
being
I
such an
appreciate
open
it.
book and
Sure.
sharing. And
Yeah.
yeah, and for everybody else out there, as you know, if you have a success story on your own that you want to come and share, and encourage somebody else with certain things that you have on your heart, my video is always open for you.
There you
But
go.
until then, stay rooted, stay blessed, and always stay connected to love, the strongest
Yes.
force in the universe.
Thank you. Blessings.